Satisfying Saturdays. I'm Hawk from Helpful Hawk Healing, and we're live on YouTube and Facebook. So today we're going to be talking about holding enoughness hostage. Now, there's an old statement that says, spare the rod and spoil the child. And I agree, children do need direction and correction. And yes, there were times when I physically corrected my sons, and they needed it. But there was one particular time when I corrected my youngest son, and he did not deserve it, or at least not the correction I gave him. I used a belt on him. I was dating a woman and I was frustrated. We'd gone down to visit her and her son and gone to a community group thing, and we were out in the middle of the woods, and he just would not put his phone down. No matter what we did, that phone was in his hand. And I took it away from him and things. And finally, we went up to the town to get some stuff. And when we came back, he just, I was asking about specific things on the sides of the road to keep my son's attention. And he was just totally ignoring me. Basically, the ultimate flip off that you can do as a 13-year-old. So I pulled him over to the side. I told him about it. And I'm telling you, when I turned my back and picked up a glass of water and turned back around, there he was, and I lost it. Pulled him over to the side, pulled his pants down, 3 licks with a belt, and I was giving it to him loud. The whole campground heard. And it was wrong. Now, what he was doing was not a right thing. He was a 13-year-old. And I was holding him responsible for how I was feeling. And I was frustrated because of the sociopathy with the woman. So I did a wrong action. I took his phone away. And then he and his older brother had no choice but to play with her son. But it was a wrong thing. What I did was wrong. I held my son responsible for my emotional content. That's a wrong thing. When you hold someone else responsible for your emotional content, that's abject narcissism. That's requiring what is outside to fill you up. That's why I am enough. I love myself. I am free is such an important concept, because you're free to hold yourself responsible for your own emotional content, your own emotional decisions. The main thing is not holding others responsible for what you are deciding to feel, because you can have a subconscious reaction, which is, if this happens, I'm doing this, or you can have an aware response, which is, I see something happening. It's consistent and normal, but how am I going to respond to it? Do I need to become involved with it? Do I need to have emotion involved? And if so, what emotion am I deciding to use? Because our emotions are our decisions, and when we hold others responsible for how we are deciding to feel, they have a power over us. And we're giving them our power. And then they become not only responsible for how we're deciding to feel, but they become responsible for our healing too. And that's all our responsibility right here. By holding others emotional hostage, and by allowing them to hold us emotionally hostage, everybody gives their power away. And the powers that be behind the powers we see want us doing this, and that's why they foment abject narcissism through the media. Oh, he completed her. Oh, she completed him. That's not true love. I'm whole and complete within myself, and everything I need is within me. Everything I need is within me. No one can complete me. I'm whole and complete on my own. And when I'm looking for someone else to complete me, that's narcissism. That's requiring the outside world to fill up the inside world for satisfaction. And no matter the circumstances, we can decide to be satisfied no matter what. Viktor Frankl talks about how when he was in the concentration camps, there were little moments of light and brightness. There were little moments where he could find the love to fill himself. Another Auschwitz survivor, I can't remember her name, talks about how she felt sorry for the guards because they were doing things they knew they were wrong for doing, that it was obvious that they didn't want to do them, and so they made it even harsher on the prisoners. That's a hard place to be, and then to come out of that and to forgive them. And that lady, when asked about, did she still hate Hitler, she said, no, I'm not carrying that weight with me. That would still give him my power. That would still give him power over me. And I'm not carrying it. I forgave him. My way of looking at it is, how did that other person come up in the world? How were they reared or raised, if you will, that they would treat other people that way, and that they would think that that's the way to treat people? There's a story I read recently about a little girl. Well, she was a grown woman when Marianne Williamson met her, and she was just grating on Marianne's nerves. And finally Marianne says to herself, where is this in me? What is it about me that's having trouble with this situation? Where can I not find the grace to allow this woman to just be who she is? And she relaxed and allowed the woman to be who she was. And after the woman got through speaking with everyone, Marianne went to talk to her, and she found out that the woman's father had held her in a basement, locked away from everyone, until the police finally came and got him. She had been there for years. She knew no interaction with humans other than what she had had with her father, and because of that, she had absolutely zero social skills. And Marianne talks about how her own shadow had caused her to look at that woman and to judge her. And my encouragement is that before we judge another person, we ask, how did they come up? How were they raised? What was their example of communication? Because everybody says, well, the problem with the world today, and then they've all got a version of it. And opinions are like anuses. Everyone has one, and usually they are holding back fecal matter. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I have absolutely no care what anyone thinks of me. I know who I am. I know where I was. And they say every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. Well, I know I've got a future, and I know I've got a past, but I am not claiming to be a saint. But I do not hold other people responsible for how I'm deciding to feel. And as soon as I feel myself slipping into it, I say, hold on, stop right there. What did that other person go through that this is what they think is supposed to be communication? What is that person going through right now in the moment? And how it is your place to judge them. A very wise man said, remove the beam out of your own eye before considering the mote in another's, and judge not lest ye be judged. And these are two very important things to remember. The fact of the matter is that when we judge, then we have to forgive. If we forgive, we never have to judge. Now, there are times when we do have to stand up for our boundaries. The warrior expands the boundaries and holds them. Not walls, but boundaries. You can come here. No, you've got to go back. But not a wall keeping people out. And all emotions are valid. But when we're holding other people responsible for our emotions, well, like I said, we've given our power away. So how can we stop that? Well, one is to become aware that we're doing it. And awareness leads to what we call control. and not control, but, oh, I am in control. It is okay for me to feel this feeling. And you are not causing it. I'm deciding to have it. And all emotions are valid. Once we realize this, then we have discipline. Then we can come to self-realization in a totally different way. And then we can come to self-actualization. What we repeat to ourselves is who we become. And I am enough. I love myself. I am free. Break those heavy emotional chains of your traumatic past. Rip them out of your heart. Now, pull them gently. I'll tell you, the Scorpio is, yeah, I've done the ripping. But break those chains. Shatter them. Never let anyone take you out of your center. And the way to do that is as soon as you feel the situation starting, you know what? You are allowed to have your tantrum. And you are allowed to try to hold me responsible for it. But I am not accepting responsibility for it, and therefore I'm not even going to respond. Except with, okay. Okay. You're allowed to have your perspective. You're allowed to have your feelings. You're allowed to have whatever you want. But you're not holding me responsible for it. Or I'm not holding me responsible for it. I'm not giving into it. The one-upmanship that we constantly see put forth in the media. What if everybody went around and when they meet somebody they haven't seen in a long time whom they were very close to, instead of saying, hey, you old blankety blank blank blank, they say, hey, you old friend whom I love. And we're unafraid to say that. What if we could let go of everything that anyone had ever done to us? Now, I admit there are some people from my past I am not going to allow back into my life. I will say hello to them and keep going. Some of them, it is physically dangerous for them to be around me. Some of them, it is emotionally dangerous to have them around me. And some of them, it is spiritually dangerous to have them around me. And then there are a few where all of those dangers are there. Luckily, I'm guided and guarded by archangels. Look up Merkaba. It's an amazing, amazing thing to invoke. But remember, you are responsible for your own decisions. You are responsible for the interactions you have and how you pull someone else's energy into you by being pulled into their conversation or being pulled into their aura. If you do not want to be held responsible for what they're deciding to feel, don't get involved with the conversation. Don't get involved with the action. And make sure that if you are getting involved, it is right action. Because people say, well, I just assumed. Never make assumptions. Never make an assumption. Make an evaluation and an analysis, and then you may proceed. And always remain skeptical. Always have a healthy dose of doubt, because you don't know what you don't know. I don't know what I don't know, and there's a lot out there to know. So when you don't know what you don't know, how can you make a true presumption or a true assumption about what's actually going on? This brain, our conscious mind, works at 40 to 100 bits per second, and the subconscious mind, or the operating system, is running at about 4 to 10 million bits per second. And the non-conscious mind, which is often said to be unconscious, but unconscious is asleep, is running at trillions of bits per second. Who's in control? Do you think your conscious mind is able to ascertain everything that's going on? And to know immediately everything that's going on? And to be able to take all those variables into account and to be able to use them? By letting go of that need for control of what's outside of us, By letting go of that assumption, we begin to let go of our trauma. And trauma can be anything. People say, well, you weren't in a war. How could you have PTSD? Well, I was raped when I was 4. That's pretty traumatic. The story I give is there's a little girl who grew up in a crackhead house. She was beaten every day, and she became a crack whore. On the other end of town is a little privileged girl. And one Saturday she walked into her dad's office, and he was having to work, and she said, Daddy, it's time to play. And he said, I don't have time for you right now. But her little mind only got as far as, I don't have time for you. Later on, she grew up and she tried cocaine, and she ended up becoming a crack whore. Who suffered the most trauma? Many people would say the little girl who grew up in the crack house, but that was her normal. The little girl who grew up in the privileged home where her parents loved her. She endured one moment of trauma, but that moment of trauma was so outside of her norm, it smashed her. They both have the same result. But for one, that's just been her normal life. And it also, emotions can't be graded as greater than or less than. There's nothing greater than or less than in this universe. We see bigger and smaller, and so we think bigger and smaller. We think better and worse. We think larger and smaller. But no one endures more. It is a matter of decision. How is it that one girl can get raped by 10 men and it has no effect, and one girl can get touched by a man wrong and it totally destroys her? It's a matter of a decision. So if we teach our children well, and we teach our children how to regulate their emotions and that their emotions are their decision, we can avoid a lot of trauma for them. But what do we do about our own trauma? What do we do about our own shadow? Well, we have to go find those things. And we can do it through talk therapy. I personally have a method on YouTube called Abuse Recovery Method, or Shadow Work Integration Method is also there. And it's a way of going into metanosis, which is a combination of meditation and hypnosis, and going to those wounds and allowing those feelings to be felt until they're no longer needed, and let them go and get that energy flowing again. I have over 2,000 hours of working with this specific type of method and combining it till I refined it. Excuse me. The thing about it is, it's based on the ancient yogi healing process called the completion process. There are many different forms of it around the planet. I've combined ancient shamanic techniques and everything I can find on hypnosis in order to put this together. And no, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. I'm a part of God. I am not God. But one thing I will tell you is it does work, and I use it. Find those old wounds. Let those old feelings out. Ramp them up. They're scary. Especially the ones that happened as a little child, but you are not re-experiencing them. You're just revisiting them. And by doing that and letting go of that, you let go of holding someone else responsible for healing you. Heal yourself. You have the power within you. You do have the power within you. Love yourself enough to do it, and love everyone else enough so that they can heal with you. Because when you heal energy within you, it heals your whole tribe. When you heal energy with a specific person, it heals energy with them. It's an incredible way to live when we don't hold others responsible. It's very difficult to do, to learn how to do, but I can tell you it's very rewarding to do so. Whom I used to be, I was not a good person. Oh, I gave a good mask, and I helped a lot of people. I'll admit that. I'm the one that anybody could call on and say, will you help me? And I was right there. But that meant I got taken advantage of a lot. That meant I felt resentment because there was no return on investment. And who was there to help me? And in fact, the one time I asked a friend for help, they ended up stabbing me so far in the back that thousands of people believe lies about me now. And the truth is a lot more interesting and far more compelling. So the way I look at it is this. This eye does not see the same thing as this eye. And technically those eyes don't see, they just focus the light. The nerves see. This ear doesn't hear what this ear hears. This finger doesn't feel what this finger feels. How can we possibly make a correct assumption about what's going on unless we have all the details? And we can have all the details. It takes some time, and it can be extremely uncomfortable. But we can do it. I encourage you to start looking into your own past and finding out how you held other people responsible for how you decided to feel, or even in your present moment with your spouse or your children. How many times do you go to correct your child and it's just because they're doing something that isn't unchildlike and isn't wrong, it's just making you uncomfortable? How many times do you do this? I encourage you to check yourself, because that way you can actually give them love and you can say, hey, look, okay, your children, it's okay. I've got a headache. You want to make noise? That's fine. Go in the other room, shut the door, and make as much noise as you want. Or go outside and make noise. I know outside's a dangerous place now, especially if you live in an apartment complex. Children need outside. So do adults. Outside's important. When we get outside, it's easier to get inside and let our inner child out. And I encourage you to do that. Heal your inner child. Love your inner child. Because no one else can. Not the way that child needs. Your parents couldn't. So, it's called reparenting or self-parenting. Love yourself enough to parent yourself, to love that inner child enough that that inner child now knows it's safe and secure. Because there's no one else that can do it for you. There's no one outside of you. There's no being outside of you. And people say, well, you just need Jesus. Well, Jesus said, go within. He said, seek ye first the kingdom of God in Matthew 6. In Luke 17, he says, the kingdom of God is within you. Treat others how you want to be treated. Love others how you want to be loved, or as you love yourself. He always puts the self first because the self is the one that has to do it all. That's what we're here for. We're here to feel these feelings. We're here to learn these lessons. And we're here to let them go. And we're here to forgive. Think about that. We are here to forgive. And that doesn't say that the other person is let off the hook. They certainly aren't. When it comes to samskara and karma or action and reaction, they're not going to be let off the hook, no matter what it appears like on the outside. What it means is we no longer carry the weight of what they did to us. We no longer let it affect us. We no longer let it rule our lives and therefore give them power over us. What it does is it removes and that sting. And then we can see them and we can say, okay. And that is weird. When you come to a place where you can be with an ex-lover and be okay, that's incredible. That's an incredible way to live. No matter what they say, no matter what they do. No matter how they hold you responsible for how they're deciding to feel. And it comes up in daily life too. Think about how many times in traffic, or at the grocery store, or at the gas station. I wish she would just shut up. Her voice is so grating. Yeah, but how did she come up? Maybe that's the only way she knows how to communicate. Or he. We have to take our responsibility on ourselves. We have the ability, so how are we going to respond? I literally work every day with this. And I'm not perfect at it. Believe me, any of these things I'm talking about, I am not perfect at, but I work at them. Every single day I work with them. Board, about, above, across, all those prepositions. Anywhere a mouse can go, I'm working with these emotions and these responsibilities every single day. Because I refuse to let anyone else have power over me except for the Maker. The Great Spirit, the Great God, whatever you call it. And it lives right here. He, she, it. Right here. In every single person. No matter how that person acts, no matter what that person's doing, the Creator is having the Creator's experience. And that's what we're here for. We are the great ising its isness as us. I'll say that a lot of times real fast. So, my encouragement is, I love myself. I am enough. I am free. And you are enough. Love yourself and be free. Check out my Helpaholic Healing channel here on YouTube. Check out the abuse recovery method and the shadow work integration method. I know you'll be surprised. I know you'll be surprised. But for now, know that I'm your brother, and that I love you, and that you already are free. You were born free. I am enough. I love myself. I am free. And I love you. Remember that. I love you because you're a part of me. Namaskar.